found your guy, Wells. Lieutenant Wells?
Well, where is he?
We got a little settlement. Now, he's badly hurt, but he's alive. He told me I would find you here.
They found Wells. They got him. They found him.
We found you, too.
What was the craziest fan reaction you've had? Enthusiastic or passionate fans, if you will?
Yeah, I love the fans. I mean, I really do. I mean, it's interesting, that thing about crazy, because it is passionate. It is about people who engage in the show in a way that is, they take ownership of it. And one of the great things about doing a show like The Walking Dead and Doctor Who, you know, they have a fan base that really love the show and care about it, and that's important for me. So I was once at a comic book convention, and a guy asked me to sign his alligator, which I thought was a euphemism at first. until he got this alligator and put it on the desk. He had the mouth strapped up.
Like an actual live alligator?
Like a live alligator,
What
right
the...
there, right there. And I was like, I don't think I can sign this, because I thought it was sort of animal cruelty. But he had this sort of tape down the side, so I signed the tape.
Jesus.
So that was quite weird. Tattoos, people have tattoos of me all the time. You know, that's quite interesting when people say, I love you, and they go like that, and they got a tattoo of me. That's quite good. But I have to say, that part of being in The Walking Dead and Doctor Who, the engagement with people who love the show, passionately love the show, has been a real joy to me. I have great time. Just being here in Australia and walking around Sydney, you know, people stopping me in the street and just congratulating you on the work, really. That's the big thing for me.
Just to change gears slightly for The Missing, which
Sure.
weirdly had no zombies in it at all, which I think is to its detriment, to be honest. Season 1 of The Missing was amazing. Like, it was an amazing, dark, really emotional. I mean, I definitely cried at least twice during that damn show. And I heard season 2 was coming out, and I thought, well, that's an exceptionally poor idea. And then watched it, and I was like, oh, okay, it's a new story in most ways.
It's different, yeah. I mean, it's a standalone season, that's important to say.
My daughter was abducted in 2003.
I loved the first season. I thought it was great.
Sure.
Jimmy Nesbitt's
Some big shoes to fill.
he's a mate of mine, and he's a great actor. I love him, and I've worked with him myself. So I came to it as a fan, and like you, when it was muted to me, I thought, well, I don't know how that's going to work. But our story is different. I mean, our story is about a family. I play a soldier who's stationed in Germany. He's in there with his wife and his 2 children, his daughter and his son. And his daughter gets abducted and taken away from him, and they don't know where she is. But our story starts 11 years after that. So the family in those 11 years have been without us. They've had no sign of her. But strangely, in those 11 years, they've also bonded in a very real way. This tragedy has brought them together. And they've survived it as a group, as a real family group, the mother, the father, and the son. But 11 years later, she walks back into their lives. She's escaped from wherever she was. She's been held in captive in terrible circumstances. So their dreams are answered, but actually that's what drives them apart as a family. The daughter walks back into their life, and suddenly they become 3 individuals who cope with it in very different ways. And that acts as this terrible sort of tragedy inside the family, and that interested me there. It's sort of like the TV equivalent of a great page turner, you know, when you're reading it and you just can't put it down, and that's what this is like, I think.
I've got some questions from readers from the social media pages of Filming.
Yeah.
And I'm moving my legs because this first one, it's a little salty.
A little salty?
It's a little salty.
Look at you.
Chris Fraser asks, and
Hello,
I stress this wasn't my question.
Okay.
Did you draw from, this is a Walking Dead question.
Yeah.
Did you draw from personal experience in order to portray such a sadistic asshole?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I mean, what was interesting about the governor was I read a lot of stuff on leadership, but also on cults, you know, and how they are run, and so there's leadership of cults, really, and that was fascinating for me. But my own personal, I've met people like him, you know, really have. I mean, you can't work in the film business and not meet people like the governor. You know, it is...
every director.
Yeah, well, not every director, but, you know, quite some producers. But, you know, some actors. But I think I loved playing him. He was real fun to play.
Yeah.
You know, because they gave him that sort of, those levels of where you didn't know where you are. You know, people liked him. People would run up to me in the street and say, I love to hate you. And that was it. You know, he was a guy that you loved to hate. And also because, and I think you loved to hate him because he was constantly letting you down, because you thought he'd turn the corner, you thought he was great, and then he'd do something horrible like kill Herschel or Andrea or whatever. And that, you know, he was great fun to play. But certainly I did draw on personal experience.
On a personal note, would you like to address the Walking Dead fans, many of which are in Australia and around the world, and apologise perhaps for the action of the governor?
Why would I apologise?
Why would you?
Apologise for what?
You stripped Maggie, you fought Michonne.
And what's going on? Fought
You
Michonne.
decapitated Herschel in front of Maggie, who, by the way, shit has not gone well for her.
Serious danger now. Question
Shit
the
has
governor. You
not
just
gone
don't
well
do
for
that.
her.
Look, you know, this is a man who had Woodbury. If you're in the zombie apocalypse, man, head for Woodbury. It's the safest place in the world. He had the Dixon brothers fighting against each other. That's why entertainment, sex and drugs and rock and roll. That's what he brought to the zombie apocalypse, and you couldn't ask for anything less.
Do you still watch the show? Are you still a fan?
I haven't watched this season.
Right.
So I watched it up until when Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Negan came on board, and we didn't know who he was going to kill at that point. That was the last episode I saw, because this year's been crazy for me and I've been very, very busy, so I've not caught up with it. But people on Twitter let me know what's happening all the time.
In your lesser moments, are you kind of like, well, he's no governor, is he?
Well, he's not. I mean, it's simple, isn't it? I mean, there's no question about that, you know. I'm sure he's doing a very nice job with his leather jacket and his baseball bat, but he's not really, you know. The Walking Dead's only ever going to have one bad guy.
Right, he's just a wannabe.
He is.
Sorry, Negan.
I know you, though. I know if he was sitting in this chair, you'd be saying the same thing to him.
I ain't messing with Negan. You see what he did to Glenn, man?
Yeah, well,
His eye had popped out and shit.
Yeah, it's not really a great fight, though, was it? You know.
Yeah, that's
Come on.
true.
You know, when I took on Rick, it was a hand-to-hand combat. You know, he had to get his girlfriend to sort
mate.
of
You had a tank.
Yeah,
I mean,
not at that point. It was like, you know, a proper sort of cage fight incident, and I was battering him. That's all I've got to say. I'm leaving it there. Do you know what I mean? No argument.